Up for game 3, Matthew Vook, Sam Roukas. Matthew in second place right now. He's one of 2 players at 11-1-1. A win here will certainly lock him for top 8.
And the loss here is not going to eliminate him.
No, he has 2 chances to win a match. It's even possible that without a win, he may still be in contention.
Right. Yeah, in a very good position here. The win quite a bit more important for Sam here, so we'll find out how this goes.
Just over 23 minutes remaining in the round. Between the 2 players, there'll be plenty of time to finish the 3rd game. Remember, Punishing Abzan, it's not your fair. Yes, it's a 3-color answers deck, but it's much less of a control deck than a prison-style strategy. You know, this is a black-green deck that's not playing Deathrite Shaman. Instead, it plays Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, this deck is really just trying to cast a bunch of haymakers. Chalice of the Void, the first one that comes down. You can consider Liliana the Veil and Knight of the Reliquary. Those are some of the bigger spells that you cast in the Legacy format.
In a lot of ways, to me, this deck feels like an evolution of lands, where you're doing a lot of the same powerful things that lands does. You cast Life from the Loam, you cast Punishing Firegrove with the Burn Willows, you play Mox Diamond. At the same time, because lands is, you know, kind of such an oddball of a deck. It barely uses, you know, it plays so weird. What Punishing Abzan does is it's better against hate cards. It's kind of forfeiting that linear strategy to play cards like Dark Confidant, Knight of the Reliquary, things that can kind of just, they're harder to hate out.
These decks have been around for many years. They used to play 4 Life from the Loam.
Right.
And you've kind of leaned, you had more and more stuff that's reasonable to put in your deck outside of that. Come a long way since players casting Terravore and like Countryside Crusher in Legacy.
Yeah, your strengths are still that if you're going to play a fair deck, you're going to want, I guess, some of the unfair cards or elements. So if not Deathrite Shaman, Mox Diamond.
Yeah.
Another way to get a bonus land on turn 1. That's a fundamentally unfair thing in Legacy. This plays 4.
Yeah, Liliana the Veil, still a pretty powerful Magic card.
Ramanep Excavator added to his deck today. I like that. I like that because he has 2 Green Sun Zeniths, so it lets him play what's functionally more Life in the Loams.
Yeah, it's a bit better than Crucible of Worlds in a deck like this. You also have diminishing returns on playing a bunch of Life from the Loams. You want to get 1 going. Openers that have 2 copies are a little mopey.
So in this kind of matchup, where Matthew has a Life from the Loam strategy, and Sam, he has Jaces, but he has Stoneforges and Monastery Mentors, if the game makes it to turn 10, which player is trying to bring it there?
Honestly, they're both pretty into the late game. They want to both be making land drops. The Chalice of the Void, pretty important in the early game, but even then, Matthew takes a while to actually close the game. So there's going to be a little bit of fight. Sam's going to want to set up basic lands and get to the stage where he's casting Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's going to be the win for him. But Matthew's just going to try to get online early with Chalice, hit Dark Confidant, hit Knight of the Reliquary. So I guess Matthew's technically the aggro, but they're both going to take their time to win.
They're starting out by trading land drops. Passes both here, and a cycle of Tranquil Thicket for Matthew. Remember, as a Life from the Loam deck, those cards, those cycle lands can add up. And for Matthew, his turn 2 play is going to be Dark Confidant. He'll see if he can get some extra cards early on. A fetch and response from Sam. Looks like he may be going for a Brainstorm here, as he only fetched 1 of his 2 fetch lands.
Yep, usually indicative of that.
And that will indeed be the play.
Sometimes in these kind of matchups, you do have to force a will. Dark Confidant doesn't feel great. He'd love to just find Swords to Plowshares here and clean that up that way.
That's right, I gotta have your opinion. I know that you play Legacy. New card face Brainstorms.
I'm against it.
If I put in new card face Force Wills, so my whole deck was new card face, does that matter?
I mean, your approach is consistent. You know, I'm not going to take anything away from you. I would not do this.
All right.
I'm very into old card faces.
Swords to Plowshares is found after the Brainstorm. That'll take care of Dark Confidant on Matthew's end step.
I like these Tempest basic lands.
I like when they spell it out. Tap to add this to your mana pool. It's nice.
I think it's a little weird playing beta Swords to Plowshares with Cold Snap Precon Brainstorm.
Yeah, I agree. If I was to do Cold Snap Precon Brainstorm, then I'd probably use new card. I might use like full art lands.
Yeah, like Eternal Masters, Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah. Yeah, it's consistent. It's a style. Back to Sam here. Turn 3, he'll brainstorm again. You see Jace, he's setting up for some Jaces here. He has 2 copies.
Has a Deathrite Shaman in hand, so he could cast that as early as next turn.
I like this a lot. Land and go. So he had the option to crack the fetch land to make Deathrite Shaman this turn. Not interested.
Yeah, must just have strictly cards that he wants.
So Matthew attempted to make the first threat last turn. Has Liliana. Could go for that here. Because there's that basic planes up, he doesn't have to worry about counterspell.
Yep. Yeah, you'd be pretty much playing into Force of Will.
And actually, Sam's a Stoneblade deck, not actually a blue-white deck. Probably just not considered worried about counterspell anyway.
Yeah. Sam does play a couple Spell Pierce. That does make sense with this Monastery Mentor package. You want to have some efficient counterspells.
So post-board, you'd expect the Pierces to still be in here?
Oh yeah, against a Chalice of the Void deck, for sure. It has some awkward spots, you know, when your opponent casts Knight of the Reliquary and you have Spell Pierce in hand, you're like, well, this is pretty unfortunate. But like sometimes they have to Zenith for it, so you do get them there.
Here's Liliana of the Veil for Matthew Vook. Ticks up to 4, both players will discard. Deathrite Shaman, Sam's gonna let that one go.
The strategy for Sam seems to be that he's turning off the removal because he's just making land drops.
Yeah.
He's not opening himself up to getting hit by Swords to Plowshares or Abrupt Decay or anything like that, punishing fire.
Yeah, and he's getting only basics. It looks like then he's gonna double use fetch lands and just make Jace the Mind Sculptor on this board.
Jace squares off pretty well against Liliana of the Veil.
Yeah, it's a better one. Now, it's not immediately easy for him to remove Liliana of the Veil. He's got 1 Council's Judgment in the sideboard. But the Planeswalker can stick around.
Once he sets up Monastery Mentor, it becomes relatively easy, but in the immediate time, it's going to be spending some time and retrading activations. Sam's still ahead on this exchange because he's brainstorming and going up a card every turn, whereas Matthew, they're both going to be discarding. I'd love to see a Liliana Ultimate, though.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to... This is, I think, your best chance at it. Liliana goes up to 5. Both players discard again. Sam gets rid of a second Jace. Matthew gets rid of a Wasteland.
Vook has a few ways that he could work on getting this Jace the Mind Sculptor off the table.
Green Sun's Zenith for Matthew. X equals 2. What are we looking at here?
Either Scavenging Ooze or Gaddock Teeg, I think, are the potential finds.
Looks like it will be Scavenging Ooze.
This diminishes the power of a potential Snapcaster Mage. It also applies a lot of pressure to the Jace.
Yeah. Ponder by Sam. He's going to shuffle. Liliana of the Veil really is a hole in the strategy for his deck. This is not easy for him to answer.
And that's true of a lot of legacy decks right now. I've been playing 1 copy of Liliana. The fact that you can't red blast it is nice in other matchups, doesn't come in here. But just like, people are generally light on answers to Liliana.
I thought we were getting 10 poison this round. I don't like where this is headed, though.
Pretty into this.
Yeah. This wasn't even the first match we started on.
You got to figure
this
out
wasn't supposed to happen.
The Liliana Ultimate matches. This is just justice for you telling Nick to put the poison guy on camera.
I would never do such a thing. We watched Ross Merriam's Storm matchup. Swords of Plowshares will take care of Scavenging Ooze, but the Liliana remains.
Matthew exiles the other swords in Sam's graveyard in response. Liliana to 6. That's what I like to see.
Sam gets rid of a Spell Pierce and untaps. Jace to brainstorm. Matt, he's just going to take it up to 7. You know,
if there's no creature, you may as well put the 7 first.
He's going to take it up to 7, and Sam's going to hit the Council's Judgment.
That'd be bad.
He says go. We get back over to Matthew. Abrupt Decay, Golgari Charm, Liliana. He's got this great Planeswalker in play, but that's about it.
And the nice thing is he gets to keep discarding these horrible cards from his hand.
Yeah, I mean, if he ultimates right now, he basically would just trade Planeswalkers.
Yeah, well, you line up the Jace with one of the bad basic lands.
It's like Jace.
You put it with the Plains or the Swamp. Probably the Plains, because Swamp can cast Deathrite Shaman.
Okay, you put Jace plus Plains.
Yeah.
Sam probably keeps the lands. But, I mean, if that's your whole game plan, and he will ultimate the Liliana, not going to wait for 7.
Bingo!
I don't know. You should put it up to 7 first. That's ridiculous.
Put it up to my second row.
Yeah, it's Jace in one pile, all the lands in the other one. Sam gets rid of the Planeswalker.
I think you could have hit the Plains there.
I don't like that play for Matthew, going back. I would like to see him either put the Plains with the Jace or really tick up the Liliana to 7.
Right.
So once you make that play, you're in a lot better of a situation.
Yeah, and Sam's drawn a lot of extra cards off of that Jace.
Right. I mean, Sam's, Matthew set up a board. Yes, he answered the Jace, but he set up a board that he's losing on. I understand it's a good play with Liliana. You maybe needed her to do even more than that.
Right. Yeah, you probably can't put like 2 basics with the Jace, but you put 1 land in the Jace pile.
Or you just wait a turn and then you have it all.
Yeah.
And Deathrite Shaman a draw for Sam. And Matthew still no pressure. He's got this Abrupt Decay. Or actually Punishing Fire. He'll shoot down the Deathrite Shaman. Now there's no Grove of the Burnwillows in play yet for Matthew, so this is just a removal spell for the time being.
Yeah.
And also note, Sam's deck only plays 2 copies of Jace the Mind Sculptor. Remember earlier on, he discarded a Jace to Liliana, so that's off the table now. Which, with Jace gone, I would think Punishing Fire plus Grove of the Burnwillows is going to be a plan that's tough for Sam to interact with. Dark Confidant played by Matthew. Toxic Deluge answers it.
Yeah, and Sam's still hanging out with a Force of Will, so he can catch anything that he wouldn't be able to remove otherwise.
Yeah, the worry though is that what he can't catch is the Grove of the Burnwillows.
Right.
Players trading lands, both looking for more threats. Here's Grove from Matthew.
All right, going to work.
So what are we looking at then for answers from Sam? He doesn't have Surgical Extraction.
No.
And that doesn't typically work against this anyway.
He also can't really set up Deathrite Shaman when your opponent already has Punishing Grove going. There's some Rest in Peace in the sideboard. Maybe they're in, maybe they're not.
I'd like to see them in here. You're against a Loam deck.
Yeah, against Knighted Reliquary as well. It hits a lot of stuff.
Now, to be fair, Matthew's hand is Abrupt Decay Golgari Charm, so if that's your game plan is to resolve Rest in Peace, there's a lot more work Sam needs to do.
Right, as long as you have the Punishing Fire in your hand when the Rest in Peace trigger happens, which you should be able to do with the Grove.
Then that doesn't work. Chalice of the Void from Matthew. I guess as long as Matthew doesn't find a second Punishing Fire, you see Force Will counters the Chalice of the Void. Perhaps something like Batter Skull can attack through, but once Matthew finds a second Punishing Fire, that doesn't work.
Right. Second Grove also does the trick.
With this much mana, absolutely. There's a sort of Fire and Ice in Sam's deck. That could play.
Trick is getting it attached.
Yeah. Here's Monastery Mentor from Sam. That is a target for Grove of the Burnwillows. It's going to immediately cast a Ponder. Gets 1 Monk. Matthew will Abrupt Decay. Can't counter that. But he gets the Ponder and the Monk token. Finds Engineered Explosives, 2 copies, and looks like, is that a Back to Basics? Yeah, it's a 1 of Back to Basics out of this board, but that's not enough. He's going to shuffle. He knows there's a Golgari Charm in hand.
Right.
Draws another Monastery Mentor off the Ponder, however.
Reasonable draw.
Yeah, I mentioned how much he wants to commit here. He'll just say go.
He has another Force of Will. If he waits till next turn, he can hard cast that after playing the Mentor.
Matthew didn't bring back Punishing Fire yet. Do you think he's playing around Surgical Extraction?
Yeah, I think he's concerned about the possibility of that. At some point, he's going to be forced to do it.
Right.
He's not really under any duress yet.
Here's Monastery Mentor and a swing with the 1/1 Monk token. Matthew will go to 20. And what we know here is there are no surgical extractions in Sam's deck. Another Replicate will shoot down the Mentor again. Sam's thought about spell piercing it just for the 1/1.
Yeah.
Decided not to.
Given that the Grove would mess that up, the Spell Pierce is a card that you can later shuffle away with a Brainstorm, something like that, pitch to Force of Will.
And the Monk goes to work more, Brian down to 19. But this bluff here, where Matthew's playing around the surgical that doesn't exist, the lifespan on it's really low. When Matthew draws another Grove of the Burn Willows or another Punishing Fire, then this is done. He's just going to fire it off.
He has Dryad Arbor in his graveyard as well, which you can just replay with this Ramian Excavator. That could get in the way of the Monk and force some action.
Plays Excavator, gets back Wasteland. First chance of priority, Sam will Swords to Plowshares away that Excavator. And it keeps attacking in. But the clock's ticking here for Sam. 1 Punishing Fire and 1 Grove, and that Monk token is gone. He's going to need to find something else. What he has done here is all those Abrupt Decays in Matthew's hand, he's worked through most of them. There's just 1 Golgari Charm yet. So if something like Rest in Peace was boarded in, he's working his way toward it.
Yep.
Here's Deathrite Shaman from Sam. That will put pressure on Matthew.
This is going to force the Punishing Fire play.
It forces it, and you know, if Sam doesn't have a surgical extraction, I'm not sure he wants to force the play. You know, he's forcing Matthew to call his bluff.
Wow, and he's even going for Swords to Plowshares. Matthew's really concerned about this Graveyard 8.
Yeah, the problem with Sam is, like, you don't want to force someone to call your bluff when you're bluffing.
Right.
And off the Swords to Plowshares, Matthew gets back the Punishing Fire. Sam did gain life.
Yeah, that is kind of nice. Left the Grove untapped because of that.
Players speeding up here. He's just 6:45 remaining in the round. Yeah. Brainstorm from Sam Roukas.
Yeah, Punishing Grove does not close games quickly.
Not at all.
And Sam's a bit off of having closing power himself.
A Brainstorm from Sam, a crack of the fetch land will complete the Brainstorm.
Is that a fail to find on the land? Did one show up?
I don't think we got one. Might be.
Been through a lot of lands already. He has all 4 of his basics. Been wastelanded some.
Cascataxian Probe. Sam actually down to 8. See Swords to Plowshares, Punishing Fire, Golgari Charm. No wastelands in Sam's deck. No way to really get through these Grove of the Burn Willows. He'll keep attacking in. The Monk token at 2/2, so you're going to see that Matthew not going to pull the trigger just yet. And here is Back to Basics. There's a Golgari Charm at the ready for Matthew. Sam can protect it with Force of Will. Matthew's going to go for it. We see Force of Will pitching Gitaxian Probe. That'll take care of the Golgari Charm. And this is an answer to Grove of the Burn Willows.
Yep.
Back to Basics is on the board. We go back over to Matthew.
Yeah, and with the way the game played out earlier, we saw Matthew use multiple Abrupt Decays on creatures.
Yeah. Because
he was so worried about that surgical. And with the Back to Basics on the battlefield, we're in a spot where that could end up costing him.
Wasteland knocks down one of Sam's lands. The Monk token continues its assault. And we'll see Deathrite Shaman from Sam. There's plenty of interaction that Matthew has. He has Swords to Plowshares, he has Punishing Fire. He's going to cast a Punishing Fire. Sam going to hardcast Force of Will back. That does permanently tap down 2 of Sam's lands.
Yep.
And interestingly, he protects the Deathrite, so Matthew can't really get back the Punishing Fire because he doesn't have a mountain.
He can use the Swords to Plowshares, and the Grove is still untapped.
Well, but he
would have to use the Grove if he...
Doesn't he have to pay red with the Grove, though? Then how does he cast the Punishing Fire? He'll use Karakas to Swords.
Not sure what you mean by that. You make red mana, he gains a life.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he gains a life, so now he pays red to get back Punishing Fire. It's in his hand, but he doesn't...
Yeah. Now he won't be able to use the Grove henceforth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, depending on his lands, he doesn't, on the board, have another red mana source.
Yeah, so he still has Verdant Catacombs. We'll see what he can still find.
The Badlands is locked down.
Yep, he only has 1 Taiga as well. That one's up there as well.
He has to draw a Grove.
Looks to be. Only plays 3 Groves as well.
That Monk token, that thing's still alive. That's just... Here's Knight of the Reliquary. And Sam's ready with a removal spell. Yeah, he's going to Swords it immediately here. 2 Abrupt Decays in the yard that we see from Matthew.
It's 2 more lands tapped.
Yeah. He needs to make sure that if he draws, if he's boarded, he kept all his Abrupt Decays in, that when he draws it, he can still cast it. And here is a big haymaker. It's Rest in Peace from Sam.
Now Matthew's just in all kinds of trouble.
He needs a lot of Abrupt Decays. He gets to untap that Forest. That is his only basic land. Yeah, that's it. Just go 250 remaining. That Monk token keeps going to work. And remember, we really reset the clock on that.
This is funny. Matthew drew Maze of Ith, but he can only use it once.
That's a good one.
Only use it once.
230 remaining. When he had to Swords to Plowshares, the Knight of the Reliquary, players had to count to see just how much life that would be gaining. But here will help Umezawa's Jite cast and equips to the Monk token.
Sam has ceased attacking.
Is he not realizing that Maze of Ith is a one-shot?
I don't know if it's that, if he's worried about a Dryad Arbor being fetched up, but I don't know. Attacking seems to be the correct play.
How about this, though? Abrupt Decay from Matthew takes care of the back to basics. So...
with all the Rest in Peace, that doesn't really do a ton. He frees up all this mana, but he no longer has access to Punishing Grove. He has a Punishing Fire.
Yeah. Okay.
He can kill the Monk token.
Cycles Barrenmoor. Wasteland's one of Sam's lands. Yeah, these 4 basics in play, by the way, for Sam are his only basics. Punishing Fire hits the Monk token. Punishing Fire exiled.
And we're kind of going back to that Liliana split earlier. Now that all the non-basics are gone, Sam could be at 3 lands.
Liliana of the Veil, here we go. Only 4 mana for Sam. He has to discard. He has Forcible, but he did not have blue card. What he does, however, have is Engineer Explosives, which he will set on 3. So Matthew's got about 1 turn to draw away to answer this Engineer Explosives. He chooses not to use Liliana. And Sam will go ahead and take care of the Planeswalker. 1 minute remains for the players.
Looks like he drew backup Liliana.
Reclamation Sage from Matthew. That'll hit. He'll go for the Jite.
Normally he'd like to go for Rest in Peace. His graveyard's already gone with a lot of his deck, and there's 2 of them.
Here's another Liliana. This is the last one in his deck. And Council's Judgment, Sam has to discard. Now he draws the Spell Pierce. But I guess the lands are all untapped. That card doesn't do anything. It's fodder for Liliana.
It's a blue card for Force of Will.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Liliana ticks up. Disenchant discarded by Sam. Matthew could win yet. I don't know, though. 25 seconds. We'll make sure that that's right. This is such a drawn-out game.
And Sam drew Monastery Mentor, but he just can't cast it into Liliana.
Yeah, Swing of Reclamation Sage. A big Green Sun Zenith for Matthew. Force Will pitching Spell Pierce for Sam, but he is so low on life points. He's down to 4.
Yeah, that makes the Sage a 2-turn clock.
Discarded Zealous Persecution. Now casts Monastery Mentor. Casts Ponder. Gets a Monk token.
Right, the Ponder was a big draw because he gets to insulate the Mentor against the Liliana Edict. So this will be a big draw. Well, and because of the Rest in Peace, Matthew can't use Cabal Pit because he doesn't have any cards in his graveyard. He doesn't have a Threshold.
So Sam's turn was turn 0, and he found Engineered Explosives. Turn 1 goes to Matthew Vook. He's trying to find a way to deal 4 damage. Liliana, -2. Sam has to sacrifice a creature. And he said he was going to he said he declared the King Judge ruling. He verbally declared that he made a Monk token off the Engineered Explosives.
Yeah.
So he sacrificed that, then blocked. And now it's the Knight of the Reliquary, turn 1 for Matthew. It's just a 2/2. There are no graveyards. But 2 damage on turn 3, 2 damage on turn 5.
Yep.
It could work.
Important draw step for Sam here.
And Monastery Mentor attacks Liliana. No, Matthew could Maze of Ith this.
Yes. Yeah, that one is unlocked now. Matthew's just going to take a quick inventory, see what's left in his deck. That makes sense. Been through a lot of it. because of Rest in Peace, those cards are gone forever.
I guess letting Liliana take 2 off Mentor, and is he gonna block? Oh yeah, he finds Maze of It. He just run taps it. Second Mentor from Sam. Turn 3 is Matthews. He's gonna need some help. Liliana removes 1 Mentor, but he needs to get damage in this turn. That second Mentor might be the draw that Sam needed. And by the draw, meaning the card and the draw for the match.
Matthew would be looking for a Punishing Fire off the top of his deck, assuming that Sam draws a blank.
And Sam on turn 4, he's drawing, is that the last card of his deck?
Looks like it.
Oh no. And Matthew swing on turn 5. This is gonna draw with an empty deck, I believe. And remember, yeah, so Sam on his last turn, turn 4, draws the final card in his deck. But there is going to be no turn 6, so he doesn't actually mill here. He drew a card and just passed, said go. Can he draw Punishing Fire? Can Matthew do it? He sacrificed, Sam goes to 2. And there's no way. Sam gets the draw in so many ways. He's dead to the attack next turn, he's dead to milling next turn. But there is no next turn, so this is gonna be a draw. Sam Roukas to 11-2-1, Matthew Vook to 11-1-2.